Hey everyone, and welcome to the Adoramacinema channel. My name is Julian, and today I'm going to be walking you through how I connect a visual style to the subject matter that I'm actually shooting. We're mostly going to be talking about lenses today, but obviously we know that lenses aren't the only thing that make up an image. You have lenses, you have a camera sensor, you have the light, you have the scenes, you have actors and subjects, you have art department and wardrobe, post-production, color grading. All of these things make up a final image, the vibe that a person feels when they finally watch something. So we know it's not just the lenses, but I feel like walking you through my process of how I decide what lenses to use is really going to help you understand how I connect a visual style to my subject matter. Right off the bat, I just have to say, we know all of this is subjective, right? So nothing that I say is the end-all be-all, and it's really just my opinion. Other people are going to have other opinions, and you might have a different opinion than me. That's totally fine. I just want to share my experience, my opinions, so then you can come to your own conclusion. So I own 3 lens sets, and they're lens sets that I love rotating through my work. So the first set of lenses that I own are the Sony G Masters. These are the native Sony lenses that are autofocus, and they're the newest ones. They're all the primes, basically, the 14, 24, 35, the 51.2, which is one of my favorites, the 85 1.4, it's the first version, the 135 1.8. I also own some zooms. I own the 16 to 35 G Master 2, the new 28 to 70 f2, which is quickly becoming a favorite of mine. I'm shooting on it right now at 28 millimeter at f2, and finally the 70 to 200 G Master 2 2.8. No matter what camera system you're using, doesn't matter, Canon, Sony, Nikon, Panasonic, Lumix, any of them, let's just categorize this set as the native autofocus set. I really feel like every person, whether you're starting out or not, might seriously consider owning these autofocus lenses because they're just so useful. So in no particular order for the Sony G Masters, why I choose these lenses to do a specific project. Definitely corporate video, talking heads, things that have to be fast-paced, high pressure. Those kind of jobs where you need a system that is really a workhorse. It's a no frills system that's just going to work. Nothing's going to break down. Eyes are always going to be in focus. Those are the situations where I'm going to use the Sonys. Of course, they don't have a vintage look, but I quite honestly really enjoy their look. I generally shoot them close to wide open, and I really think the look is quite pleasing. So the next lens set that I own is a set of vintage cine-modded Leica R lenses. They're in Canon EF mount, so I can put them on any camera as long as I have a Canon EF adapter. And we can just categorize these lenses just in the big pool of vintage lenses. These lenses usually have lower contrast, they're more prone to flaring, blooming, they're a little bit softer, and their out of focus elements might have a little bit more character than the modern glass of today. If we have a job that not only is a bit higher budget, but we're starting to be able to make creative choices. So it's not just this sort of bare minimum, go to work situation. It's this really be intentional about deciding what this thing is going to look like and feel like. I'm more in control or looked to produce more of a look. A director or client isn't afraid of character or flares or a more organic sort of process. I'm going to go for the Leica Rs. They do slow me down, and I have to consider things like manual focus now and how I'm going to operate, but that's okay, and actually that's part of the process that I like. The final lens set that I own that I rotate through some of my work are the Atlas Mercury 1.5 times anamorphic lenses. These are PL mounted cinema lenses that are 1.5 times anamorphic lens, and they generally deliver 2.35 or 2.4 to 1 CinemaScope anamorphic aspect ratio. This is a wide aspect ratio. The flaring characteristics, the out of focus characteristics, they're just absolutely gorgeous, super organic, really beautiful images coming off these lenses. But they're very specific. They can be specific, Give you a quick example. If you're delivering for social media, 9x16, this isn't going to be my first choice unless we flip the lens 90 degrees and shoot it vertical or shoot the camera vertical. I recently had a client that wanted to do a live stream event, but we wanted to produce pre-recorded content that was going to be shown on that live stream. And we needed to make sure that the pre-recorded content looked very different from the live stream content. So what we did was we shot anamorphic. Not only did we shoot anamorphic, but then we made it black and white. So it's sort of like double different from the live stream event. So let's talk about some strengths and weaknesses, and let's first start out with that first Sony G Master set. I can't say enough good things about the Sony G Master set. I think the first thing that comes to mind is not only are they just amazing lenses using autofocus. One of my favorite lenses is that 51.2. Obviously at 1.2, you're gonna get an extremely shallow depth of field, this extremely high production value look. The rest of the primes are, close to that at 1.4 or 1.8. A big point I want to make about these lenses is that I actually use these lenses in manual focus. I would probably say at least 50% of the time. And so it's linear and it's repeatable. And all I do all the time is I switch these lenses into manual focus. When I need to take over and I want to focus rack and be in control. It takes practice. If you've seen my handheld video here on the Adoramacinema channel, you know what I'm talking about. After you put the time in and you get that muscle memory, manual focusing these lenses is not what it used to be. It's actually good. It's a major plus side to these lenses. I think over the years, we've also come to say that modern lenses were sterile. I don't know if I believe that of these modern Sony G Master lenses, especially when you shoot them shallower. I personally really like the look. The 16 to 35 2.8 G Master 2 doesn't have much character at all, but it's a workhorse. I just shot a real estate thing down in the Caribbean, both photo and video, and it performed flawlessly. Of course it did. And the 70 to 200 G Master 2 is a total workhorse. And I think workhorse is the right word for this lens set because that's what they are. They're just doing the work. They're getting it done. There's really no better tool for the job. They just absolutely crush when it comes to work, high speed, high paced, high pressure environments. They just work. And that's really the boiled down sort of theme of any of the autofocus sets of today, but specifically the Sony G Master set that I own. Okay, moving on to the strengths and weaknesses of, let's say, the Leica R lenses, but in this case, any vintage lens set. Cine-modded or rehoused, there is a very special, real, warm, organic quality that is really hard to describe. You only know it when you see it. It's just special. It really is. It's definitely subjective. I'm trying not to romanticize it. It is just truly absolutely special. There's something about it. If and when your director or client wanted something special, wanted something vintage, asked specifically for the FDs or the Rs or whatever, and you get on set and you start looking at the monitor or dailies or whatever, and everybody's just sort of has a grin from cheek to cheek because it's something that they feel. It's a real thing. If it wasn't a real thing, there wouldn't be so many different lens sets. And so from a strength perspective, it's got to be the look. Canon EF mounts, you can put them on any camera. The photo housing from that time, they're all metal build. Most of them all have 77mm fronts when you cine-mod them, so that just means they're standardized. So you can put the same ND filter matte box on the front. It's a really usable lens set. And if you rent a rehoused lens set, that physical quality is just going to go through the roof. Now you're working with a real cinema lens. The weaknesses on a vintage lens set, obviously we know that it doesn't have autofocus. DJI has been working on LiDAR technology that actually works pretty darn well. So that is turning into a real thing, having eye autofocus with vintage lenses. They can be rare, they can be expensive to repair. You got to take care of them. That would definitely be a weakness. All right, so the Atlas Mercury's, the Atlas Mercury 1.5x anamorphic lenses, strengths, the build quality. Now you're working with a professional cinema lens, so the PL mount, the body, the physical build of the lens is unmatched. Whether you're manually focusing by hand or you have an AC with a follow focus, the experience is just pleasing. Obviously, the look is unmatched, anamorphic, flares, bokeh, just that grand, epic look you can't achieve without anamorphic. Weaknesses for the anamorphic sets, obviously you don't have autofocus. The lenses might be bigger, tend to be bigger. They're generally more expensive. And stretching that image so wide, really the end deliverable wants to be CinemaScope 235:1. And so it'd be really hard to sell the look to a client if they're looking to post vertical content only. That being said, you can put the lens vertically and stretch the sensor out vertically and output something around a 4x3, which you could sell to a client. That'd be really good for a 4x3 or square deliverable. And even could be cropped to a 9x16. Finally, let's go over to the studio and put these lenses side by side so we can see exactly what they look like in the exact same scene. All right, so this first lens is the Sony G Master 35-1.4. You see how sharp my face is, my eyes, my hair. That's because of the eye autofocus. And even with this pretty powerful MC light, you're just getting a really nice sort of blooming effect. No real flare with this somewhat soft light. And then I even blasted from the side here a pretty powerful Fresnel just to see what was going to happen if we put even more light in from the corner. And you can see this sort of like overall contrast lift haze situation. And finally, just take a note of the bokeh in the background. There's nothing too funky about it. Next up is the Leica R 35-1.4 at 1.4. And remember, this lens is manual focus, so my eyelashes might not be perfectly sharp. Definitely notice the difference in bokeh in the background. There's a little bit more distortion on the lens because the camera doesn't have the distortion correction set. And you can see this little red flare start to show up with this little flashlight. And then with the MC light, you can see sort of the RGBs of the MC showing up in the flare here, and a much stronger hazy sort of effect. Then we have the large Fresnel coming in from the side. And this is really where this lens's coating shows the golden coating of this 35 Summilux is just one of my favorite parts about this lens. This is really what happens when the sun comes into play. And as you can see, you just can't replicate this with any other lens. You can't replicate it in post. It's just totally built into the lens. And then finally, the Atlas Mercury 42mm T2.2. And as you can see with the flashlight, there's a little bit of that streaking flare. I love the distortion and the out of focus elements in the background. It just looks so rad. And then with the MC, obviously that blooming and those streak flares are more exaggerated. But again, that background bowing, that distortion of the background, those bars in the back and the window on the left side of the frame, I just love the out of focus elements. And then finally, that light from the corner. Just a massive amount of veiling and blooming. And this is obviously a really extreme example, but it shows you what would happen if you blasted a light at the lens. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it gave you some insight into what these different lenses look like and feel like. And I hope now you have a little bit more confidence for the next time you get to choose what you want to shoot on. If you have any questions whatsoever, just leave them in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer them. Thanks for watching, keep shooting, and I'll see you in the next one.